Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing top RPG spin-offs. So with all that being said, let's get into the video. Spin-offs are a great way to get back into the world of your favorite RPG franchise. Done right, this can help fans get invested into the franchise even more, plus it gives the devs more creative freedom as they can create something totally different from the mainline games by experimenting with different genres and styles. So first off, I want to explain what I consider a spin-off so we don't get confused. For this video specifically, I'm looking at spin-offs that share the same world and lore of the mainline games, not games that were first a spin-off and then became their own franchise. For example, Persona or Nier. So now that we defined what a spin-off is to me, let me go on to the list. Now I love spin-offs for a bunch of reasons, but mainly I love them because they get me back into the world of the main game without having to play the main game, even if they're not canon, which could get bothersome at times, especially if you're trying to get into the lore. But I find them very fun and creative. So a good example of a spin-off that's very fun while still sticking to the characters and elements of its story is the Warriors games. More specifically, the Nintendo Warriors game. I love them to bits, especially Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity and Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Houses. These two are so cool because not only do they offer, the hack and slash style gameplay, but they offer a different perspective in the story. In the case of Age of the Calamity, it takes place in an alternate timeline during the Great Calamity, which happens in Breath of the Wild. Personally, I like Hyrule Warriors because the amount of characters and side content you are given. There's new characters, old characters, and what I like to call fun characters. Because no one looks at the Great Fairy as a character, but they put her as a character in Hyrule Warriors, and it's just like, wow, this does not make sense, but I like it. And also the amount of content itself. You could play Hyrule Warriors for hours and hours and still get new content. I'm still playing it to this day. Though you could finish the main story in about 20 or 40 hours, so don't worry, you will finish the main story, but there's a ton more content. And Fire Emblem Three Hopes takes the alternate timeline path, but it adds new conflict and characters to the mix. So overall, I love the Nintendo Warriors games. I like how they started with something small like Hyrule Warriors, but it was just like pure fan service, and then they kind of built up to make it woven into the story that was already there. I just find it really, really cool. And honestly, these are great games, story-wise and gameplay-wise. So I highly recommend these. Now the next game is Dragon Quest Builders 2. I don't have 1 and I never played it. I started with 2, but something about Dragon Quest spin-off games I tend to like more. I don't know why, I just tend to like them more than the mainline games. For example, I'm loving Dragon Quest Treasures, and this is also a spin-off game to Dragon Quest 11. I find them really enjoyable. So I don't know what it is about Dragon Quest, but they make some really good spin-off games. Especially the one I'm going to talk about now. Dragon Quest Builders is so good. It's a hidden gem. A lot of people like to call it a Minecraft clone, which it's not. It's actually better than Minecraft in my opinion. I was gonna see how far I could go with this without comparing it to Minecraft, but I kind of failed in the first second. Anyways, Dragon Quest Builders is an action role-playing game with sandbox elements. Your character is tasked with rebuilding the world after it is destroyed and ravaged by monsters. As a builder, you can make camp, bases, tools, and other contraptions to help rebuild the land. Now, besides building objects, there is a battle system to look after, though it's really clunky in my opinion. I feel like they didn't really put that much thought into the battle system, but that's okay because this game mainly revolves around building, and you also have a companion with you that does pretty much all the combat for you. So it's not really that big of a deal in my opinion. Plus, not to mention, you could play with up to 4 people via online, so it has online co-op, which is cool. They could all go to your island, help you build stuff, and vice versa, you could go to their island. I've only tried it once, but it was pretty good on my end. So I love Dragon Quest Builders 2 because not only is it like a sandbox thing, which is different from the mainline RPG, It has its own isolated story within, so you don't really have to play other Dragon Quest games to understand this. You can just pick it up and enjoy, and I like it. And another honorable mention, I guess, is Dragon Quest Treasures. I am currently playing it and I'm loving it as well. Now the next game is an example of the mainline games don't really have a solid story, so they wanted to make a better story. And that brings us to Monster Hunter Stories 2, Rings of Ruin. This is a big departure from Monster Hunter, not only gameplay wise, but story wise. Because we all know Monster Hunter games are not really known for their stories. You go hunt a monster, that's basically it. But I feel like they wanted to make a narrative, but they didn't want to put it into the original games, so like they made this one. And I feel like they did a good job at it. You have this quest that you have to go on, and instead of hunting all the monsters, you actually work with them and you capture them to make them into your team. The first one came out on the 3DS. I unfortunately don't have it because it's super expensive. And from what I've been playing, I don't think you have to play the first one to understand the second one. So with the narrative in the forefront, the gameplay is a bit simple, but fun nonetheless. You collect monster eggs, you can hatch them, and they come out into this like mini monster. They only last for like that one screen time, but they're super cute. They're really cute. Even the ugliest monsters look adorable if you just shrink them down. Also, the game takes this whole rock, paper, scissors approach where you're going to need to know the nature of your monster. It could be power, speed, or technical, and that's how you could get the upper hand on your opponent. It's vastly different from the mainline games, and I think that's the point because they wanted to tell a story without shoving it into the mainline games, which that would be kind of bad. So I like what they did here. And the whole concept of working with monsters instead of just hunting them all the time is a cool perspective to have. So I highly recommend this game. Now what happens when a spin-off game has its own spin-offs? Well, you get Persona, basically. Persona is actually a spin-off from Shin Megami Tensei, but it's its own entity at this point, and it comes with their own spin-offs as well. And I love them. Now the first one I want to talk about is Persona 5 Strikers. Now, this is kind of weird because I don't know if it's a spin-off or a sequel. So I could be wrong about this. If I am, tell me in the comments down below. But Persona Strikers is a different take on Persona 5. It takes place after the events of the original game. I really did love the story of Persona 5 Strikers because it takes a new story with new characters, but it doesn't really disrupt what we know about the Phantom Thieves and how Personas work or any of that. And plus, I love revisiting the whole Phantom Thieves crew. Plus, Persona 5 Strikers was the first Persona 5 game on the Switch. I have it for PlayStation 4 because 60 frames and all that good stuff. But yeah, it was the first Persona anything on the Switch, so that's pretty cool. What I didn't like about this release is that a lot of people played this one first and then the mainline one, which you should play it in reverse, but it gets the point across, I guess. Now next are one of my favorite Persona spin-offs, and that is Persona Q and Persona Q2. These two games are just pure fan service. So basically you have the protag and the team from each Persona game, well, each modern Persona game. So you have the team from Persona 3, 4, and 5 come together to have this little adventure in these games, and I just love it. Also love the art style. It has this chibi art style going on, and it's just so cute. The only differences between each of these two are the stories, but Persona Q only has the cast from 3 and 4, while Persona Q2 has the cast from 3, 4, and 5. So that's pretty cool. Now, the in-game explanation on why these characters are in one place somehow is because time and dimensions and realities, but basically they take them from their time before, you know, stuff happens, and they have their own little adventures here. But once they leave, they can't remember, which is very sad, but I understand why because of continuity. I won't take too much time on this portion, but the last games are the dancing games. They're basically rhythm dancing games from your favorite Persona game. It's pretty fun, not a bunch of content, but I still enjoy it because the music is really good. Now the next game is Pokémon Mystery Dungeon. Pokemon is infamous for a lot of their spin-offs. Oftentimes they're better than the mainline games. they don't suffer from the crunch, and the developers could just be creative for once. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games are dungeon crawlers in which you get to control your favorite Pokemon. Now this series spans multiple games throughout multiple consoles, especially the handheld ones. Though the version I'm really talking about is Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX for the Nintendo Switch. So you start off as a human who gets turned into a Pokemon. The game is heavily mission based with different jobs and tasks that can be found on the village bulletin board. These include rescuing Pokemon in dungeon, delivering items, or escorting other Pokemon to the destination. Plus there are many story-based missions as well. It's an interesting take on the Pokemon formula. You actually get to be a Pokemon and actually battling as Pokemon. So I highly recommend Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. It's a really cool series. I kind of fell off in the DS era, but I do want to pick up the one for the Switch. Now the next game on the list is something I'm really excited for because there's a Switch version releasing in February 16th, and I can't wait, and that is for Theatrhythm Final Fantasy. So, Theatrhythm is basically a rhythm game with a bunch of Final Fantasy and Square Enix music, and it's just so cool. It even has an RPG-like aesthetic to it with its main missions, where basically you have to get the notes right so you could beat the monster. And it's just so fun because Square Enix music is so good. And I'm just overall excited for the new release of Theatrhythm Final Bar for the Switch. Last but not least, I want to cover one of my favorite spin-off series to this date. And that is the Mario and Luigi series. These games are so good. They're basically RPG games for Mario and Luigi. They go on an adventure, and I just love the bickering between Mario and Luigi. It's so funny. They have a bunch of humor. Eek! There goes Toad. Just left him there. Get dressed! Let's roll! Classic. What is with that face? Oi, incredible! To think you could produce this Zeus the creature. Aye, aye, aye. What do sodas call their dads? Pop. A hippie's favorite soda, granola cola. Yeah, it sounds good. I want a glass. I don't think soda's supposed to do that, fam. Ah, it's so wonderful. So wonderful. The great soda shines. It's just so good, and a lot of people don't really play them or enjoy them, but I just feel like there's so much potential here. And I know Mario's a platformer, that's why they made it into a side game, but these are just as good, if not better than Mario games, because there's just so much content and love, and I just love them. And this also extends to the Paper Mario series, which is one of my favorites as well. So I hope they keep making Mario RPG games, whether it be Mario, Luigi, or Paper Mario. They're just amazing. So much fun. So that is it for today's video. If you like, hit that like button, and if you like my content, would love to see more, please subscribe. I would appreciate it. Tell me what spin-off games do you guys like in the comments down below. I would love to hear it. Hope you guys have a beautiful day, and as always, play a good game. Peace, peace.